Everyone, well, we are back again, and I have another request here for a video. And as I said in my previous video, if you're interested in a different theme or a topic for a video, put it in the comments, or you can use the email that I gave on the previous video. This one here is an interesting one, which I kind of have had several downloads on in the last little while, is what will the new paradigm of relationships look like going forward? Okay, I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to go by what I sense and feel and see is going to happen. A lot of this is going to come that I do some what I call visionary traveling during my meditation. And I get a lot of it in the dream state too. As I've said before, and I will say many, many times going forward, keep in mind that anything that I say, there's going to be variations to, depending upon the person, location, where they are, and their background. And as we all know right now, we are going through a major, major shift in our society. And one of the things that I'm going to say right here in this video in the beginning is the difficulty of the tribulation that we're going through right now. And everybody knows what's going on. They don't have to have me repeat it to say. Is going to do something. And one major thing it's going to do, but now we have the time for it, is it's going to change relationships in pretty much the way that I have predicted over the last few years. But now it's going to come into play because the world, in essence, has been shut down. And I just want to make a comment here that I kind of want to roll by. It's kind of off topic for a minute, but have you noticed something rather interesting here? Excuse me. You know, here we have countries like the United States, Russia, China, France, Britain, some of the most industrialized countries, some of the most powerful countries in the world that have militaries, okay, that have set up missile systems and missile defense systems and created warships and submarines and air forces and hundreds of thousands of soldiers to protect us, as it were, and defend us in a time of attack, that spend billions of dollars. I mean, I think in the U.S. they spend, what is it, $3 or $4 billion just to build a submarine, which the cost of that would probably feed the homeless in the U.S. for the next 10 years, 20 even. And here we have all of this military hardware, all of these defense mechanisms, and look what happens. Look what happened. Not a shot was fired, not a missile was launched, and not a bomb was dropped. And the whole damn world has stopped. The economy is down. Financial institutions are in panic mode. Consumerism has basically stopped. All by one small virus. And humanity is on its knees, literally, in the face of it. And all of those damn militaries that we spent so much money to build to protect us weren't worth a rat's ass. I hope people take note of this. All right? One little virus. just one. Think about that. Think about it a lot. When we go back to the normal, it won't be there. A lot of people are going to be thinking about it. And the other thing that's going to happen is this. The relationship template that I talked about on YouTube in regards to using the Twin Flame platform is going to change dramatically. And part of that's going to take place during this vacation from the norm, as I'm going to call it, vacation from the norm for the general population. And in that vacation from the norm, as we knew it, people are going to do something that they haven't had a chance to do before because they were part of the program, and they're going to start thinking about relationships. They're going to start thinking about the relationships that they're in, the relationships with others, the relationships with family, and they're going to start changing their concepts. One of the things that's going to happen after all of this is said and done, and I'm not going to put this in order of priority, but I'm just going to put it in random order, but you'll get the general gist of it. The very first thing that's going to happen after this, and this is in regards to relationships I'm speaking here at this time, is whether the general population are aware of it or not, is the birth rate has been on the decline for the last several years. Now, I don't have all the statistics on the tip of my tongue, and I don't get them right. So if I'm wrong, I'm never worried about somebody correcting me because there's always somebody who's going to correct you. The birth rate has been going down in most countries. After this is said and done, you're going to see a dramatic drop in the birth rate. So much so that a lot of governments and countries are going to go into panic mode and want to bring in more and more immigrants from other countries. Now, the reason the birth rate is going to drop is simply because I'm going to put it this way, the awakening multidimensional state of consciousness in individuals that denotes that sense of freedom is going to invest in them more of an interest of spiritual development, creative development, than having families. That is not to say there will not be people who will not have families or have children. It also is going to set up within females a, shall we say, vibrational spin pattern that is going to put many of them in a situation where they don't want to have children simply because of the precarious situation of the world at this particular point, where a virus has come in and literally shut down everything on the planet. And this is going to create a spin-off effect in addition to the birth rate on top of that, which is going to falter and fall apart. The other thing that's going to happen is this, is the traditional relationship in itself is going to change, and that people who are going to be together long term will be much older than what they are now. In other words, the getting married young is going to go up in years, where you don't see it happening until in their late 20s or their early 30s. And you will be seeing a lot of people who, by definition, don't, how do you say, I don't want to put this so it sounds derogatory as if I'm criticizing or judging people, but up to this particular point, our expression of sexual energy meant that as we're single, and even as in adults now, we're going to respect our sexuality, our sexual energy even more. And a good many of us are going to learn and know that in actual fact, constantly expressing it we're going to limit that in a way so that people having many sex partners is going to diminish greatly, because we're going to feel differently about how we mingle or how we have connections with people. And we're going to be looking more for the right frequency or the right energy before we get into any kind of sexual expression with people. And this is because the sexual energy, which is part of the spiritual awakening, will have moved in a, shall we say, more balanced frequency. And people will know and understand, men and women, that this can be used also to actually have a sexual relationship with themselves without having the need, and I'm saying the word underline need, for a partner to do so. This makes people much more independent, as it were, and more exclusive, if I can put it that way, as to who they actually have a physical experience with. And this is going to become very prominent. You're also going to see a change in our society as to how females are promoted. And right now, females are promoted as an object, which I find rather distasteful. And this is going to stop dramatically, very quickly, after this tribulation that we're going through. When it comes down to getting people to come together in what I'm going to call a union, or what other people still like to call a relationship, the relationship format will have changed, and the situation will be that people will wait longer to vibrate with the right person or the appropriate person. And even when they do find that person, they will not rush in to what might be called a traditional relationship. And the idea here of marriage as we knew it is coming to an end. And what will happen is you will have a situation where people will test the waters with a person for an extended period of time with no physical contact, but with having all of their connections and contact in the etheric, or the, as some people will probably still want to call it, the astral, or what I call the spiritual planes, and they will be able to complete their essence connection selves there first, okay, pay particular attention to this part, where they will have all of their etheric sensual experiences, first of all with themselves. They'll be able to do this. Then they will find a person that they can do this with in the etheric or the spiritual planes, and they will do this there. And then last, if it continues on and it's fruitful for both, they will manifest it in the physical. The other way around, it went physical first, play hide the wiener, and then hopefully it moved up to something in the rest. It's going to be reversed. This will mean, inevitably, that we're going to have more balanced, more healthy, and more nurturing relationships where codependency and neediness based on belief systems and personality immaturities that are and have been installed in the belief systems of these people as teenagers, because this is where the relationship format, the sexuality format, the love format is created, comes from the age of puberty going through to adulthood. This whole concept will have changed because of the freeing up of those attitudes, those belief systems, those aspects of self that have been put together in that way, shape, or form. This will mean, by definition, that those who do have children, which will number far, far less than what they are now, you will not see in the coming generation. Somebody's going to ask me, well, how long is this coming down the road? You'll see the beginnings of it before 5 years have passed, and you'll really be into it 10 years down the road, where you'll see this actually happening. And the other thing that I wanted to mention this is you're going to see a change, a major big change in, as I said, the birth rate, but you're going to see a change in the children that are born to these parents who are under these types of influences that I've mentioned. Okay, and this is going to be the criteria, the new benchmark, if you will, for relationships. As I mentioned, you can put it all together because it's at random here, but this is an important video. So this means that in the next decade, you're going to see people who come together under this format are going to produce children in smaller numbers, but these children will not be hereditary traits passed on such as are being passed on now. And those are all of the conditions of cancer in children, all of these mental and emotional Down syndrome, all of the other disabilities that have been manifesting in a very dysfunctional society. You will not see these anymore in children starting the birth coming into the world in a decade from now. These will disappear very, very quickly. The reason that this will happen is because over the continuation of time, kind of one lifeline after another, these patterns based on the old relationship format have been downloaded as hereditary and genetic defects into the birth cycle that's going on the planet, and these will be eliminated because they are now being scoured out now, today and in the past, from people going through a lot of the stuff that I've mentioned. And to give you an example was the last video that I did in regards to people and sexuality and the rest of it going on. So you're going to see this. You're going to see perfectly healthy children with perfectly stable immune systems, and their genetic and their hereditary traits are not involved from previous or past lineage, if I can put it that way. They are based on the union, the stable union of the parental influence only of the two people that they are birthed from, not from the family bloodline or the family tree going back. And that is a very, very important thing. Please pay attention to this video and keep it in mind. This is what you're working toward when you're going through what some people popularly like to call the twin flame union. If you get there and you get the proper guidance and you get the proper information, which I'm giving, and understand the mechanics, you can get there. All right. I want to mention this at this particular point in time because we've got something here, and this is not a criticism, it's not a judgment, or whatever. You have a lot of twin flames out there, especially on YouTube. I think you've got 4 or 5 or 6 couples calling themselves twin flames. And basically what they're doing is they're relationship coaching. That's what they're doing. Those need to be getting into the mechanics of it, much similar to what I am, and they're not, and I'm not seeing it. You must understand the mechanics of this and understand that children in the future must come out of union that's in balance and harmony, that doesn't drag their lineage or bloodline with them in genetics and hereditary traits or disabilities or whatever, deformities, whatever you want to call it, and they don't drag the concept of relationships with them. We now at the point where union in the schematics and the features that I've mentioned is coming into play. And as I mentioned in my previous video, every one of you who's interested in this is going to have to understand the basic mechanics of this as it's unfolding, and this is what's taking place now. So this is what's going to happen in the future. As I mentioned, people are going to get together later in life. They're going to have less people involved with them at a sexual, physical level, and more in the etheric or the astral level, the spiritual planes, with somebody who vibrates with them. In other words, let me give it to you this way. You could be involved with a person, dating a person, spending time with a person, and you may not be having physical sex until you've been together for 2 or 3 years, but you're doing it everywhere else. All right? Some are going to say, well, I think you're off your nut, Mel. No, I'm not off my nut. I know what I see, and I see very well. This is going to co-create a new concept of relationships and a new concept of intelligence in children, where those that have completed the union in the fashion that I've mentioned will be passed all of that templating automatically to the children. They won't have to go through what the parents went through. So the idea here is this, and I want to add this in. the situation that you're in now, okay, and this applies to everyone in the population, to everyone in the twin flame community, that what you're going through now by having this moment of time when, all right, your air forces, your navies, your submarines, your missile defense mechanisms did you no good in this situation, and you're going to do la-di-da, okay? And one simple virus has brought you all to your knees and to a point in time where you're all sitting around on your ass doing nothing. Now's the time to find out if you really know how to think, or if you're just going to sit around looking for entertainment for the next 3 months while you're sitting on your ass doing nothing. See if you really know how to think. And take a look at yourself, take a look at where you're going, and ask yourself this question. Do you really want to go back to the way it was and the norm? Do you really? Do you really want to go back to the norm and the way it was? Or maybe that's all you knew. Maybe that's all you knew. Now you have time. Ask yourself, do you want to go back to the norm? Because all of this that I'm talking about is waiting for us down the road. We've been given the time to think now and about these relationships, and this is what's happening. I've given you a sample of what's coming on. With people like this and manifesting in this way, this is going to create a whole new way of doing business. And also, many other things will come after that. Now, I'm going to give a lot more on this topic later on down the road when we get to the right and appropriate point. But I really think for me, I think this is one of my more important videos. That's for me. Doesn't mean you're going to think the same way. But this is just a little bit of conjecture as to what the future is going to bring. And this is the way it's going to go. And the reason that I can see this is because what I can do is I can look into the circumstances now, and I can come up and tap into source with the use of my imagination and heart center combo. And I get a visualization or a picture of what's coming down the road. With usually what I found about an 80 to 85% probability factor that it's going to happen. Kind of deal. And I've already seen from my research, all right, that I've done, that I was right. There are a lot of people that are leaving. And a lot of us are going to go through pain and agony about it. And I said this 5 years ago, as many other people did. And we're all going to go through a major shift at this particular point in time. And this is going to create new relationship. It's also going to create a new society for commercial business. I'll give you an example of what I saw. Just kind of off topic here for a moment. I mentioned it to Nicole this morning. Most of you know that I live in Canada. This is off topic for a moment. And I have to say, I'm really pleased. I'm so impressed with what I see in Canada. I know it's happening in other places also. It's not only in Canada. But I'm seeing companies step up and actually not motivated by profit, but motivated by service, completely change around their lines of production and start producing things without a profit in mind. All right. And here's something that I see going forward into the future where you're going to see companies like this who are not motivated by unlimited profit. And what they're going to do is they are going to teach the banks a lesson. What they're going to do is some of these companies that are really going to be creative, what they're going to do is they're going to take a good portion of their profit and put it into a fund for their employees. Their employees are going to have access to those funds at low interest or no interest to use to buy mortgages and do investments and supply them with needs, but they have to pay it back through their company. These companies are going to be very in big demand, and they're going to have employees that love working for them. And the banks, my friends, are about to get a hard lesson, and the greed stops now. Have a great day, everybody. Love you all. and I do know how to do that.